Olandria, Nick, and Amaya and Brian, the winners of Love Island USA 2025 are Amaya and Brian!
Am I surprised with who won? No, they deserve to win. They deserve to win. Given who was in the top 4, they deserve to win. I think had Nick and Olandria sort of coupled up earlier and stayed together and sort of explored that connection without Nick going back to Sierra, then they would have won the show. There's no doubt about it. I think once they were dumped during Casa, and if they had come back and stayed together and Nick had not gone back, then they would have won this. There's no doubt about it. Amaya, I think, won it on the yes, she's a likable person, but also people were able to resonate with her because of the way she was treated, not only by Ace but also by Austin. And then when Zach made the comment that he did, I think that sort of took the fans over and they decided to ride for Amaya. And then I'm pleasantly surprised at Peacock, because I think we deserved a message, a warning that if you've been in such situations, this is the helpline you should ring. Because the Huda and Chris situation was very uncomfortable in bed. Because if that had been Chris asking Huda for that and making those demands, I am willing to bet there would have been protests. People would have been calling for him to be cancelled. People would have been rioting. People would have been protesting. And so the idea that Huda did all this and still wanted to pretend to be the victim, I honestly find it baffling, because I've said this before and I'll continue to say it. Huda lacks the ability to self-reflect. Huda lacks accountability. And I'm surprised that she was left until the very end. After that incident in bed, she should have been pulled out. She should have been pulled out. Unless they didn't want to punish Chris for her mistake. Unless Chris said, yes, we'll still continue to film, but I don't want to be alone with her. That's the only other reason I can think of. Anyway, hey there. Thanks for stopping by. It's your girl Valerie. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. Click the like button. Turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos. And definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Love Island USA Season 7, Episode 36, I think, the finale. Ace and Shirley have gone. The Islanders are celebrating. Obviously, they've made the final 4. But there's still this heaviness because people like Olandria and Nick, they are the only 2 OG people left. Everybody else that they came in with is gone. You have everyone go and sit in their couples just to have a conversation and just debrief, I think, because it's a bit overwhelming to suddenly find yourself in this situation that you never expected to. With Olandria and Nick, I really hope they're doing this because there is a connection and not because of the peer pressure from not only production but also from the viewers wanting them to be together. They did share a little kiss. It was really cutesy. I loved it for them because they always seem very peaceful. They have this friendship that they always revert back to. And you always hear Nick say, you know, I'm happy I'm doing it with you because you're my friend. You're someone I have a lot of respect for. And it's like, are you trying to warn the fans that once you leave the villa, you're going to break up because you're not romantic or not? I didn't quite get that because he had to reiterate that. So hopefully it was just him speaking his mind. Amaya and Brian went to Soul Ties. They're in a very peaceful place as well. They're very happy because it's the same day that everyone's loved ones have been around to see them. So people are emotional from having seen their loved ones. And they're also emotional because, you know, their friends have gone. With Chris and Huda, something is not right. And later it was evident when they got to bed. Chris is trying his best to make this thing work. I think this is why Pepe didn't want to couple up with Huda, because he had seen her crash out and didn't have the bandwidth for that. Sadly for Chris, he didn't realize how much of a burden at times Huda can be. So you have them sitting, they're just lounging around because I assume everyone was told to go and sit in their couples. You have Iris and Pepe. Iris and Pepe have this sort of friendship like Olandria and Nick, but they also share the respect for one another and the care for one another. So those are 2 couples that I think if they really put their all into it, they can be successful. Anyway, all the Islanders get ready and go to bed. The guys were trying to cheer Nick up because he really looked low in spirit. So they were dancing with him. They were playing pillow fights. These are things that he used to do with Ace and Taylor. And I think they just realized that he's feeling low. Everybody gets into bed. And this is what I think. I'm a bit... I don't know where to start. you have everyone get into their couples. The guys make a pledge that they are not going to have sex because everybody wants to sleep, because they know the next day is going to be a long day, so they agree to that. They get into bed with their partners, and then suddenly Huda is counting down to 3 like she's speaking to a toddler. Jeremiah said the same thing, that her communication is bad. She speaks to you like she's speaking to a child. And so the idea that she was upset with Chris because he wouldn't turn around and give her what she wanted. And it's like, he asked you for a kiss out there and you refused. But you now want him to perform in bed when you haven't met his needs. Make it make sense. It doesn't make sense. He asked you, please, can you tell me why you're not being intimate with me with everybody else seeing, and you refuse. But for you to sort of make those demands, I can only imagine what would have happened. I'm surprised that nothing was done, because for the network to show it and actually subtitle it, it means a lot. And I haven't seen as much outrage as I would have expected. Because let's imagine tables were turned and it was Chris saying to Huda, I need you to turn around, I need you to give me sex. And if he says no, if she says no, then he says, okay, you better hug me, otherwise tomorrow I'm going to be very stroppy. I am not in control of your emotions. Whatever goodwill she had sort of garnered for herself with her trying to retell her story, now Jeremiah is looking like a saint. Because this is 2 guys on TV. You can only imagine what she's like away from the cameras if you're dating her. This was a terrible edit for a really terrible edit. And I'm surprised that Chris didn't get up and go and sleep in soul ties, because I would have easily got up, go and slept in soul ties, or even on the day beds, because I don't want to be putting up with that. Or I would have gone and seen, a production and said to them, I don't feel safe sleeping next to this person because of the demands that they're making towards me. I am not comfortable. That's what I would have said, because it's unacceptable for her to do that. In the morning, the islanders wake up, and as soon as they wake up, Huda receives a message. Islanders, today each couple will leave the villa to go on their final date. And so everyone is excited. Nick and Olandria are the first couple to be sent on their final date. I'm side-eyeing production, and I really am, because they made it seem like it was an afterthought, because they took them to this small little island. There was a little picnic with a little sort of bunch of flowers, and that's it. And it's like, why are we giving them, the outcast treatment as though they're the third class, islanders in the villa? I didn't like that. I didn't. It looked very petty and very below budget, actually. Anyway, they went to this island. They got to read letters from supporters, people cheering them on. And I hope this doesn't force them into a relationship whereby they're not ready for. Hopefully, if they decide to sort of explore this thing, they explore it because there's an emotional attachment to it, and not because of the pressure from the viewers and their family. So they also had a letter from Nick's dad and a letter from Olandria's sister. It was the cutest thing ever. I love this for them. They have a lot of respect for one another. They have a lot of care. Sadly, I think Nick hasn't been feeling well. It's been a couple of episodes whereby he hasn't seemed like his normal self. He's seemed very down. He seemed to be trying, but he seemed very low in spirit. I think the sudden turnaround, or the sudden switcheroo of whatever happened with Sierra, going from that to sort of Olandria, has taken a toll on him. Back at the villa, you have Chris go and have a conversation with Brian on the dock because he is feeling some type of way. Huda then calls Amaya for a chat. And Chris was telling, Brian, that I feel like a child because of the way I'm treated and the way that I'm spoken to, because she actually counted down like I was a little child. And it's like, ugh. And you were saying he's trying to go into the date with an open spirit, but I wouldn't have gone. I would have pulled out. I would have said, I'm done. You have Huda on her part complaining, I want my guy to be all over me. I want my guy to be touching me and whatever. I shouldn't be begging him in bed. And it's like, Amaya, why not tell her the truth? Huda, this is what this man was saying to you, that why do you want us to be intimate in bed and yet you don't do anything? We're not in bed. That's what Amaya should have asked her instead of backing that nonsense. Anyway, you then have Amaya sitting and having a conversation with Iris, and Iris receives a text message. It says, Iris and Pepe, it's time for your final date. Please get ready to leave the villa. They're excited. They were really excited. The fact that Iris, when she was getting ready, she was asking the girls, do you think he really likes me? It's like, oh. So Olandria and Nick come back. The islanders obviously are excited to see them. It's just 4 people left in the villa at the moment. So it's Brian and Chris with Amaya Amaya and Huda. The girls go and sit down and have a conversation. The boys go and have a conversation and they catch up. And it was really sweet and peaceful at that point because I think everyone realizes that it's coming to an end and these are moments to enjoy. Olandria and Nick told them about their, the letters that they got from the public, the letters from their loved ones, and how a lot of people have been rooting for them, even though they didn't know that everyone was rooting for them. So they're saying that, they can't not continue to pursue this thing outside the villa because there's a lot of sort of positive vibes being sent to them, and there's things that they themselves might have missed. So they're open to sort of exploring it outside the villa, which I love for them because at the end of the day, as long as you can love, respect, and like the person you're with, those are the most important keys to a successful relationship. They're then told that Pepe and Iris have gone on their date. Production, I'm side-eyeing them because at the end of the day, I feel like the budget for people was different. I feel like they're producers' pets who got to have the most expensive dates, and then there's everybody else. Because for them to take Olandria and Nick to an island and have them just prance around and then sit down by some flowers and have a drink, it doesn't make sense when you compare it to the fact that Iris and Pepe had a boat to themselves, that Pepe was sailing. That's a big budget. You can't just go and pick up a boat from nowhere. So you had Iris and Pepe on this boat. Apparently Pepe owns a boat with his dad. Pepe, I think, comes from money. I think he comes from money. She comes from money as well because of some of the stuff that they talk about. It was really cutesy to see them sort of sailing this boat and then diving in and sort of scuba diving. That was sweet. No, it's not snorkeling, sorry. And them snorkeling. That was really cute. I love it for them. I love how peaceful and how they calm each other down. It's just the conversations. I don't know how they're going to start those conversations with Hannah and TJ once they leave the villa. But they really seem content in their partnership. They really seem at peace, as though, they're happy to continue with this thing. They spoke about living close to one another in the same town, so it's easier for them to catch up and sort of go on dates. They discussed the type of dates that they want. And it was really cute. I loved it for them. I really did. I thought it was one of the sweetest dates. Yes, it wasn't as expensive as some of them might be, but at the end of the day, it was really cute. So you had everybody else back in the villa just hanging around because they are waiting. There's two other couples. What I've noticed with Love Island is whoever goes on the first dates, they get the cheapest dates. And then as the day progresses, the more expensive dates come up. Chris receives a text message which reads, "Chris and Huda, it's time for your final date. Please get ready to leave the villa." And they're excited. Obviously, there is tension between the two of them because we haven't seen them speak. We haven't seen them standing close to one another. So I don't know whether production have kept them apart because Chris has complained that, this is what's happened, or whether production feels some type of way about the incident in bed the night before. Huda is helped by Amaya to get ready. Amaya seems very helpful to everyone. So Huda was helped by Amaya to get ready, and she was saying she's nervous. There are things that they need to discuss. Chris on his part was speaking to the guys, and he was being encouraged that if there's anything on your mind, this is the time for you to speak about it and sort of have an honest discussion of what you want to do next. Chris went to pick up Huda. Huda looked amazing. Her dress was cute. One thing about her, she's got an amazing body and, she knows how to sort of dress it. The only problem is the personality. That's what needs work. So they leave for their date and Iris and Pepe come back. And so it was nice to see everyone just hang around and just debrief about the boat and, what's happened on the date. I think that was really sweet and that was really nice and peaceful because those three couples are more at peace. I think Huda at times can be a bit too toxic for everyone. So it's nice for them to have a peaceful moment without Huda. Huda and Chris, their date was an expensive date. There were a lot of candles. For people that production know that they are not doing very well in their partnership, their date wasn't worth it. It really wasn't worth it. Because at the end of the day, they spent a lot of money on people that are just there. They're not even in a friendship couple. They're in a very contentious couple. So they had a table that was on a floating sort of bargee and they had candles lit everywhere. And it's like, wow, this is pretty. But it's sad that you didn't use it on people that really like one another. I think Clark and Taylor would have been better suited to this type of date. Chris and Huda's date, I don't know why we needed that. They didn't need to send them on the date. They could have just sent them home and had a top three, really, because it was so messy and toxic. Because it was a very cute date that could have gone to somebody else. So they gave them a date. They had, as I said, they had the floating table and stuff. But then the problem was when they started talking, you could tell Chris was waiting for Huda to say we've broken up. He didn't want to be the one who broke up with her. And I'm happy he did that because her fans would have really come after him to say you broke her heart. At the end of the day, Huda lacks self-awareness. I've said this in reviews prior that she lacks self-awareness. She lacks self-reflection. This is the problem, because what she's asking for is no different to what Chris was asking for a couple of episodes ago when he was asking for PDA and she was saying, I'm not a PDA type of person. She's not a PDA type of person, but she wants to have sex in a room with 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 other people in there. Make that make sense. So she's almost just using him for sex and that's it. So I'm happy that Chris sat there and allowed her to sort of debate herself until she came to sort of the conclusion that she wanted to end things and he was on board with it. And then for her to say to him, do you want to carry me afterwards? I think production told him, no, don't carry her. Let her walk through the water, because they're still struggling to sort of paint her as a victim. This seems to have been the narrative that after the Jeremiah situation, she was now going to get a redemption storyline. But sadly, the redemption storyline didn't work out because she still was the same Huda with the same problems of me, and nothing about the partner. She lacked the ability to think, what does my partner want? Chris was complaining, I want PDA, and she was saying, I'm not into PDA. But just because he refused to cuddle her in bed, she kicked off because she's saying, I'm the one who's always asking him for hugs. I'm the one. No, it didn't work out. It's okay. That's it. Amaya and Brian went on their date. These dates were not that extravagant. I'm going to say that because they were cute, but they were not what I expected them to be. So they prepared to go on their dates. And after they left, you had, Huda and Chris come back. And you could tell that something wasn't right. The guys, I think, knew that he was trying to break up with Huda. So they were not surprised that he broke up with Huda. The girls maybe were surprised, but the guys were not surprised because they saw this coming. They knew this was going to happen because of the issues that they were having. And so for Huda to go to the girls and say to the girls, oh, I want a guy to be all over me. I want this, that, and that. And it's like, yeah, that's what you want. But what does the guy want? This is the same problem she had with Jeremiah. With Jeremiah, we never heard her ask, what do you want from this relationship? It was always about her and what can she get, or what does she want? How does she want it? So I'm happy that they broke up. On the bright side, I'm happy they broke up on camera because at least then there's no backlash for Chris. Yes, there'll be backlash that he didn't carry her, but at the end of the day, he saved himself a lot of heartache and a lot of sort of awkward situations of having to deal with. For her to say, oh, are we going to be friends when we meet up? Well, we'll see. We'll see. She moaned to the girls. The girls sadly didn't have the bandwidth to sort of be honest with her and just tell her that, no, this is not it. This is not it. You are in the wrong. You need to take responsibility for your own actions. You can't continue to point the finger at Chris. She pointed the finger at Jeremiah. Now it's Chris. Who's next? Who's next is my question. So it's sad that they're over, but it was about time. Amaya and... looking at Amaya and Brian's date, personally, it feels as though Huda is the one who the budget was for. I think production wanted Huda to win, and I think they tried to sort of get Chris to sort of go to the end with her until he was fed up. And I think the situation in bed after that, that's when he told him, no, I'm not doing it. I am not doing it. I don't care what happens. I'm not doing it. Because that was a bit too much. Had that been a man doing that to a girl, this would have ended that another way. Anyway, I digress. So you have them sort of go and sit. There's candles lit everywhere. There's a little couch there and that's it. And it's like, well, the budget, we know where the budget went. We really know who the budget went to. And we know who production wanted to win. So it was cute to see their date. All they had was an album of their baby pictures. And it's like, seriously, so you kept these people waiting all day just to come and sit on a couch with candles lit around them, and then you sort of give them their baby pictures and that's it. I didn't get it. So Maya and Brian come back. They're excited. They tell everyone about their date. And you can see that describing sort of their date, everyone is sort of wondering, oh, that sounds cute. But still, the budget is not the same. The budget is not the same for all 4 dates. I feel like the most amount of money was spent on Huda and what's his name, Chris, even though they broke up, and also on the next one was Iris and Pepe because they got the boat hired for them. The rest were just sat there for crumbs. That's the impression that I get, and I think had production got their way, they wanted either Iris and Pepe to win or Huda and whoever coupled up with Huda, because that's the impression that I got. Anyway, they then turn to Huda and Chris, and Huda reveals that, she's decided to break things off. And she makes a special effort to mention that, Chris on his part still wanted them to continue, but she felt it was enough and she hasn't found a person. And it's like, tell these people the full picture. Tell them exactly why this man has reached his wit's end, because you're making it seem as though you are empowered, as though you're this great epiphany, this great foresight and self-love and self-reflection to realize that you deserve better. I don't like it. I really don't. And kudos to Chris for allowing her to break up with them, because he could have easily broken them up, but he allowed her to break up with him because he knew at the end of the day he would have faced a lot of backlash, not only from Huda but from the Hudrats, because they would have felt like she abandoned her. But if you look at it, he complained about PDA. She ignored him and made it and belittled it and made it seem like it was nothing, and he was making a big deal over nothing. He also mentioned, what else did he come? He mentioned that, he felt like she needed to be in control every single time, and she didn't say anything. And then the biggest thing she did, the thing in the bedroom, that was unacceptable. I love that the guys just sat there and just were quiet and just listened to her go on about her epiphany and whatever. I think the guys knew Chris wanted out. The guys knew Chris wanted out. The girls didn't know Chris wanted it out unless their partners told them. So you have all the islanders get ready for the night. They are reminiscing on the fact that this is their last night in the villa. And, next time when they wake up in the morning, that's it. They're packing up and they're going. And it's quite sentimental for a lot of people. You then have everyone get into bed, and Chris picks up his stuff and he goes to Soul Ties. Kudos to him. If he had not gone to Soul Ties, I would have been upset on his behalf. I would have been upset as though I'm a family member. I feel like he spoke to production, and production said to him, you can't sleep, because he must have told them, I'm not comfortable sharing a bed with this woman because of what she wants from me, because she could turn around and use it against me and say I did something to her. So he went upstairs. And then Huda saying, oh, he's trying to make a scene. I think he's upset that I broke things off. No, he's going upstairs because last time you tried to use him as a SES object and he refused, and then you tried to force him to cuddle you and he refused, and you threatened him that you were going to be very sour mood the next day. So why don't you tell the girls that that's the reason why? Anyway, in the morning, the islanders wake up. Everyone is happy. The boys are making breakfast. Some are making breakfast for the first time, and they're all surprised. Anyway, the girls receive a text message that says, girls, it's time for some R&R ahead of tonight's finale. Please get ready to leave the villa. The girls get ready. They sort of, get dressed and they leave. The boys are sort of questioning, why don't we get a spa day? I'm yet to see Love Island give boys a spa day. It's always the girls that get the spa day. It's always the girls that get breakfast served to them. You never see it vice versa. You never see the boys sort of just wake up and sit down and have their breakfast served by the girls. It's always the boys doing the acts of service, and then the girls get the rewards, and it's like, I'm side-eyeing that. Anyway, they go to the spa day, and you have Iris and Huda having a massage. Huda saying, I didn't find love. You found your amazing relationship with Pepe. That's what I would have wanted for myself. But anyway, I found, all my friends. And it's like, there's a reason why you didn't find a relationship, Huda. You're not a victim. You're really not a victim. And I hate how you are trying to tell your story as a victim, because you've treated all the men you've been in a couple with terribly, terribly. Amaya and Olandria are chatting. They're excited to be where they are. Olandria obviously is excited for Amaya because Amaya, this is what she's wanted. Amaya is excited for Olandria and her relationship with Nick. I can't wait to see what happens when they leave the villa and see who was genuine and who wasn't. So you have the guys come out. I think they all looked amazing. Even Nick and his jacket, they all looked amazing. They really looked well dressed. So it was nice to see them all come out, all be very supportive of one another, and them all treat each other as equals and not have someone sort of trying to be the head of the party. lovely. So I love that. The girls, of the girls, whose outfit did I like the most? I think Huda got the best, in my opinion. I know it's going to seem like I have something against Huda, but I think her dress was the best. Iris's dress was amazing, but the shininess of it, I think, was a bit off-putting. Maybe had she been given a different color. I thought Pepe looked amazing, though, but I don't know about her outfit. And Nick's jacket made sense when you saw Olandria's dress, because her dress looked beautiful as well. Amaya's dress, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the color. Maybe I'm not, it's just because I'm not a pinky person. I'm a girl who doesn't like pink, so maybe that's it, but I didn't quite like it. I thought it was a bit, And it was a bit confusing, given the fact that she was wearing pink and he's wearing blue, and it's like, how are those colors sort of correlating? Which is it? Did we not tell him what color she was wearing, or did he insist that he wanted to wear that color? I don't know. And they both stood up to do their declarations of love. And this was awkward because you have a couple that can barely stand each other's guts. So why are we getting them to do a declaration of love? We should have just allowed them to just go home. Iris and Pepe were the first one. I loved their little speeches. I thought they were cute and I thought they were very well thought out. So it was nice to see them acknowledge their journey and how far they had come from the moment they stepped into the villa to now that they are in this sort of semi-romantic connection. Next up was Amaya and Brian. Amaya, personally, I think Amaya has come a long way. She really has. And it was important for her to find someone who understood her for who she is, because all the guys seemed to understand her sort of affectionate side. They seem to see it as being clingy. So to find someone who fully understands that. I still don't know about Brian, because Brian, when he walked in, his eyes were set on Andriana, and he never sort of looked back to Amaya until the fire pit moment. So I don't know. The same could be said for Pepe. The same could be said for Iris, Iris and Nick and Olandria. Anyway, so I found their speeches very sentimental. They were the only couple that were sort of in love, because they started off as a romantic connection, but so did everybody else. And so it was cute to see them and see how much they understand each other and how affectionate they are with one another. Next was Chris and Huda. Chris and Huda was always going to be ox galore. Chris and Huda was always going to be ox. Huda's speech, okay, I found it a bit uncomfortable, but anyway, it is what it is. Chris, I loved that he spoke about Huda as a mother and as a person and how she's grown. Yes, Huda spoke about her growth, but it would have been nice had she said some positive. I don't know what to say because I didn't quite listen to it. I'm sorry. I still feel some type of way about her given how she behaved in bed. And this is not the first time she's done this to a guy and they've all complained. So I'm surprised Peacock allowed her to keep going. So I didn't quite listen. I love Chris's speech. I love that instead of focus on the romantic side, he spoke about them as friends. He spoke about her as a mother and as a person who's gone through a lot of challenges in the villa. So that was really cute to see. We then finished off with Nick and Olandria. Nick and Olandria, for me, are a bit confusing because I know Nick had some interest in her at the start. I know they kissed in challenges, but I've always wondered, is this connection them sort of deciding to do it, or is this production who has forced them to do it because they have a fan base that is sort of pushing for them to sort of be in this space? I thought their speeches were good. I love that they acknowledged that yes, they started off as friends and that along the way they might have missed signs because they were still stuck in this friendship mode and they're still very loyal to their partners. And so I think being in the couples that they were in at the start and being together now is a moment of growth for them because they've learned to understand who they are and what they want in a connection. I think what now happens is Nick has to go home and sort of have conversations with Sierra and see whether that's something he still wants to explore or whether that is a thing of the past and is ready to move on. Ariana arrives. She looked amazing. She looked like a mermaid. She really looked pretty. I really loved this for her. And so they had a mini discussion about the journey. And it seems of the OG Islanders, it's only 3 people left: Huda, Olandria, and Nick. But the couples, obviously, there's only one, Nick and Olandria. So I think production wanted one OG couple in the villa, and they knew that Ace and Shirley were never going to be in the final 4. This is why they sort of pushed for Olandria and Nick. We then got to have, the Islanders sort of briefly discuss their connections and where they are and how they're going. I don't know. I think this season the productions had their hands on the scales too much. I think they need to sort of allow islanders to navigate their connections genuinely and organically and see what comes out of it. If the relationships come out, amazing. If relationships don't come out of it, it's still amazing. People can still move on and do other things. So Adriana then reveals that it's time to announce the winner. Am I surprised with the order? No, because most of these couples came about as a result of their couple failing. So like Iris and Pepe being number 4, I'm not surprised because they didn't have enough time to garner a fan base and people always saw them with the people that they were with. So this might be why they ended up being 4th place. Next up is Huda and Chris. Huda and Chris, I love Chris as a guy, but I don't think this couple was healthy for him. And I don't think they deserve to be number 4. I think they should have gone home. I think the Clark and Taylor should have been in their place, as far as I'm concerned, because they are 2 people that I don't think should have been there. Which left Nick and Olandria and Amaya and Brian as the final 4. You had this little thing that happened in the corner when the other 4 were standing at the table, because they would be announced and then they would go and stand at the table and be drinking champagne. So when you had, Iris and Pepe, Pepe gave Iris a pack, and then Iris jokingly said, "Oh, what about one for Huda?" And the look on Pepe's face, you could tell he doesn't want anything to do with Huda. He has seen Huda crash out. He has heard things that Huda has said to her partners. So the idea that could be even a joke, he was not on board with that joke. He wasn't on board. Anyway, am I surprised with who the winners are? No, not really. Because you have Ariana announced that Brian and Amaya are the winners. Am I shocked? No. They are the only couple who had them, or who were portrayed as having a genuine connection. Some were building on their genuine connections, but they had the genuine connection. Even Nick said so and said, I'm happy Amaya's had this journey that she's had and how she was misunderstood by people until she found her person that understood her. And she's at this point whereby she's got a very genuine connection, or they're a genuine couple, which makes me question about the rest. Anyway, so you have them be announced as the winners. Am I surprised? No. I think production had their thumb on the scale with Amaya and Brian, because Amaya, apparently she said some things that were not the best to Zach during postcard night, and she eventually apologized. We all saw her apologize, but we never heard what she said. Zach repeated that she said some things that were not sort of user friendly and they were edited out, but he never said exactly what it was. But I didn't see his live, so he might have revealed it, but I don't know. Am I surprised that Olandria and Nick are number 2? No. I think Olandria and Nick fans wanted them to be number 1, and I think production at the point that they brought them back wanted them to be number 1 because of the fan support, the thunderous support that they were having from the viewers. But then them uncoupling after Casa and coupling up with somebody else is the reason why they didn't win, because had they stayed together, their fandom would have had a long time to sort of build momentum, and because they didn't give them enough time, this is why they're second place. Second place is quite a good place for them, given how they came about to be a couple. It was a good season. There are some moments that I'm sort of side-eyeing production because I think they were not necessary. Hopefully, like at the reunion, the issue in the bed with Huda and sort of Chris is addressed, and her name calling and the way she treated the guys, hopefully that's addressed. I've been championing that. I wish she had left the show the moment she crashed out and went to therapy, but she didn't feel that was necessary, which is really sad because she really needs to do work. She really needs to go and do work, especially after watching this. Her family need to encourage her to go and do some work on herself and become the best version of herself after this. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Click the link in my video to watch my review from episode 35. Bye guys.